Meeting will come to order. We have first we'll start with the roll call. Harold Shen here. Skylar Clark.
Here.
Doug Edwards.
Here.
James Kim.
Here.
Steffi Kuntz.
Here.
Sergio Monsalvo. Here. All right. And first we'll have the approval of the meeting agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda,
Motion.
moving item C to the end of the new business or downtown development business.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Okay. And otherwise, the approval of the meeting, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, meeting approved. First order of business, request for approval of Downtown Development Authority meeting minutes from November 6th, 2025, September 9th, 2025, March 11th, 2025, presented by Shanta Bingham, Board Secretary. Shantae, sorry.
Good evening, Board. I'm just asking for your approval on tonight's meeting minutes, which will catch us up throughout the year. If I could have a motion in a second, and a vote, that would be great.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Second? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. It's approved. Minutes from the 3 dates mentioned approved. Okay.
Then I have the next item, which I'm up here. So the next item are the 2026 meeting dates that have been adopted by the City Council. Just pretty much putting them up here for your record.
Has everybody a chance to look at those?
And, we may have a special call meeting in between those dates. So if we do, we will notify you all in advance.
Do we need to make a motion to approve this?
You can, that would be fine.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve these meeting dates.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the authority meeting schedule for 2026 has been approved.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We're waiting on Ben's. Next item, New Peachtree and Motors Industrial Avenue Sidewalk Connector Project update status of bond presented by Justin Campbell and Mark Block.
Board members, I'm here with Justin Cecil McGlendon, Board Attorney, and I thought I'd just give us an intro to the next 4 items are all related.
Okay.
And what we have is we put together a package that consists of the update on the connector, where we're building a connector from Motors Industrial up to New Peachtree. And the assembly is working on that, and they're coming to give you an update, sort of status of the project, where that is. Following that, we have put together the agreement, and if we got the background we need, I forgot who's where, but we can get more. But part of the agreement on assembly is that park here would be dedicated for public use. So basically, people could come to the park and just any time and use it. But we have some conversations about how that use will be administered between the parties. The second agreement lays that agreement out. Long-term agreement will allow public access. The third document is the assembly has told us, they've come to us and said, we're basically done with the road on the site. And therefore, they're requesting that they be able to dedicate the roads to the city. And at that point, it becomes city's maintenance responsibility. And that's typical of any development. They'll convey the roads. Our infrastructure, part of the assembly project, sidewalks are not being conveyed. Sometimes the sidewalks would be, but in this case, especially with the higher level of units and higher level of look and feel that they're going to get, we'd agree that the sidewalks, like the park, granted to the city is an easement. Public has an easement over the sidewalk, walk on the sidewalks, but the city only holds an easement. And that leads to the fourth agreement. And we've seen these agreements before, which is that master mate. You remember that? That's the agreement that basically the city has maintenance responsibility. And what we do is we have the maintenance responsibility, but we contract that with the master association on the assembly property, and the master association takes via contract handles that maintenance process for us. And we already had the rail trail
Correct.
was put onto that, the infrastructure for the pond.
Parking deck.
And the parking deck. So what we're doing, sidewalks are coming through us on these. Sidewalks will also be taken into that AMA agreement where they will, unless it's maintained all. So that's the four items coming up. This is all scheduled to get this done in the next couple of meetings. Like I mean, the final is going to be following the. I wanted to give an overview of it because that's going to be the roadmap for the next four issues, but the trail from Ritters up to New Peachtree is just done.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Cecil. Yeah, we're really proud of what we've done. Thank you for allowing the opportunity to update you on this project. We have in this envelope I've brought today an executed performance bond between Assembly Atlanta and the city of Doraville for this work. We have an executed contract for the work with a general contractor, Bailey Contracting, that did about 70% of the studio. And we are actually, in the nick of time, got some comments back from GDOT as it relates. And so I asked Keck and Wood, who's the engineering firm that we engaged with per the city's request, working with Chris Eldridge, to give some comments back, and they were all fortunately very minor. We had 4 comments back. One was on our landscaping plan. Some of our trees needed to be the appropriate minimum for caliper. We had to provide some of our engineering specs for some of the retaining walls. We had those on hand already. We just had not submitted them in our first permit. And then provide a GDOT pre-approved 42-inch safety rail along these retaining walls. So we will be changing our custom rail spec to meet the GDOT requirements. Aesthetically, it'll all remain the same. And then a lighting photometric study on the plans. So all of that to say is, fortunately, we had a pre-approval meeting with GDOT before we submitted these plans because, we were very prudent. We were very intentional knowing that we'd be spending a little bit of capital to get these plans produced and presented for you. So they gave a pre-approval, and now through this series of comments back, we feel very confident in this approach. So in hand with, nothing really is in terms of a red flag from GDOT, an executed performance bond, and an executed contract with the GC. Hopefully, it can give you the confidence of our intent to do this. I will tell you, we have spent upwards of, $150,000 to this point to do it, and we did that very intentionally. And the intention is to complete the project. That's up close to about 10% of the total budget. We didn't do that just to make some pretty renderings for you. We did that because we want to get it done. We see this as a critical path asset for what we want to do for FIFA World Cup viewing as it relates to the park and to the band shell. I know that we are anxiously waiting that GDOT memo. We should have that. I'm sorry, that GDOT approval. We should have that very, very soon. But that is where we sit. Hopefully we have that. We submitted the plans again based on that photometric study this morning. And GDOT has told us anywhere from 10 to 15 business days to get a response. So fingers crossed by the end of the year, we have an approved permit in hand from GDOT and in connection with everything else I provided. Is kind of where we sit. We're very, very close.
Good.
Any questions? Anyone?
Well, just a
Tom?
couple of comments.
Yeah.
This was part of the tax allocation district agreement with Assembly and the city of Doraville. That's why they have to build this trail. And to finish this is basically phase 1.
Yes.
And that's what this dedication of the roads and this sidewalk agreement and all that will finalize, like the first phase of
Correct.
the development. And y'all have a bunch of plans for phase 2, which look exciting.
Yes.
But we're trying to get phase 1, like, a pin stuck in it and have it behind us.
That would be
And
great.
the performance bond is, how much is it for?
I believe the number is 1.822 million.
Okay. And that's if you don't build it, the city gets the money to build it.
Correct.
Right. So that ensures that if for whatever reason, it's a good faith thing that they're saying, hey, if we don't build this, you get this 1.8 million and you can go build it. So so it's going to get built one way, however this works out, but
We'd like to do it ourselves. We have a GC standing by. ready to go.
right. I know.
They ask me every-
Right. And you can only do it And y'all could probably build it for less than 1.8 million, so it would behoove y'all to do it.
Or can-
So, anyway, just wanted to kind of clear up that about this, the sidewalk connector, and it will be connected to MARTA Station to Assembly.
So up from right at the corner of the
Peachtree.
New Peachtree down. So it's about
It'll be
3.
connecting our new downtown, and the new sidewalks
Very
we
much,
built on
yeah.
New Peachtree will be connected down to Motors Industrial with a really cool looking sidewalk.
It looks great.
Okay.
Should have been, yeah. I don't know if it was submitted with this one or that.
No, it's really nice looking too. It's not just,
Yeah, you had a chance to see it. We're proud of it. Yeah.
So with this item, informational.
Yeah.
Because it's part of the following deal, but it really is. It was part of the CAD agreement and part of the requirements of the overarching assembly. But it does follow into the request for the roads and et cetera. So this is informational, but it's not part of the property. And as I said, I don't think we need a specific approval on this one, but it's an informational item to tell you. This is where we
Yeah.
are, and now the next ones are gonna be ones we will need to give us authority on, which is the park. Get one of that. Roads, will, the DDA will sign on all that, because those are. So the next ones, there's no action requested on this, then we don't need any. There's the action on the sidewalk.
Oh, yeah, there's the rendering there. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're really proud with how that came out.
Just we don't need any action on the sidewalk, because that's not in the DDA's catchment area. So I think it's where.
Does anyone have any other questions or comments? No. Thank you, Justin.
Okay, so the next document. This has been part from the original zoning case and the original concepts for the assembly site. There's a big central park area that the city would have the ability to allow public access and the general public use of that property. We've put that agreement together. It's in your packet, which is the park easement agreement. The structure of the transaction is the assembly, and then DDA, because we hold the property, the DDA is going to need to be a signatory on these documents. But the DDA does a long-term ground lease to assembly. And what's going to happen is the assembly will do a easement in perpetuity to the city proper. And part of that easement will basically be for public access, free play, non-organized events on the property. So just, you can go there, you can avail yourself of the park property. Part of the agreement is sort of riding over the general access of the public, is that both the city and assembly will have periods of time where they would have priority access to the property. And part of the agreement was the city would be able to have 12 organized events, guaranteed 12. You could have as many as everybody agreed on, but the city would have the ability to have 12 organized events on the property during the course of a calendar year. Think of that as movies in the park, or just anything we would do typically in a park. And then there would be that the assembly could have its events as well. One would be filming for public purposes, which has always, I think, been considered part of the park usage there. And there would be some parameters around, when they would be, when that meets the level of requiring it. First, it would be a third party event held out for commercial purposes, not just I'm doing my home movies. And second, there would be sounds like we're going to have a time limit that, of blocking the park, as well as some discussion about, if they came in and filmed for 2 hours, is that a whole day? So I think those issues are going to continue to be fleshed out. But so there would be a priority use for the city for the 12 events. And then the assembly would have priority use for filming as well as organized events where they showed a financial impact to the city. For one, the big one that everybody's talking about is the FIFA soccer viewing event. Yeah, that's going to fall. That one's going to ring the bell because, you know, at a big event like that, we'll want to do that. So those would be automatically allowed under the agreement. The structure of the agreement is that in October of each year, the city would submit what they knew as their schedule of proposed 12 organized events at the park. And Assembly would bring to the table what events they knew they were going to have. And we'd sit down and work out a preliminary schedule. And then for events through the rest of the year, we'd basically have to cooperate with each other for access to the property. It will be, because it's operating on an easement to the city, it'll be a city park. So the city park rules will apply. There may be, the city council might make some specific amendments, which we would do that with any park. If there was a particular aspect of the park that was different, we might make a rule on that. But by and large, they'll operate on the rules of the city parks. And in addition, when events come, they will come through the city's special event permitting process. So for instance, when the FIFA event gets set up, it will come to the city just like it would have if it was a private event. And that's a thing we have done for ever since. And what you do is when people bring us events, we will route it to the departments. You'll route it to police for public safety. You'll route it to permitting for any specific permits. For instance, if there's food, sometimes people have to go to the county to get the food permit, but we bring it all together into one process at the city. So we anticipate still using that city special event process for probably, all events, but larger events certainly would go through that process. And, that really is the substance of the agreement. I think there's something I'm trying to think of anything else. The naming. Yeah, the naming, those are big. So what it is as part of the park that the assembly has the right to determine the name of the park. They could sell the name. They could sell those naming rights, but the city has the right at its option to require at the end that it says at Doraville. So there's always a Doraville branding component on that. So whatever the name, Assembly Park at Doraville, or, Assembly Yards at Doraville. And that's the city's option to be able to require that to be in there. And then the maintenance agreement, this one will not go into the AMA maintenance agreement like the sidewalks are in, like the ones we've done previously with the rail trail, the parking deck, and the stormwater infrastructure. Assembly is going to take this maintenance obligation itself, not through the AMA. And there's going to be a maintenance component that says that while it's a city park, et cetera, the maintenance obligations will be handled by Assembly. And we will probably need to get some detail in there about the level of maintenance on that. So the agreement is one thing we're doing is we're bringing it to you today. All these documents will go to the mayor and council tomorrow. We want everyone's feedback. And next week, we are hopeful to bring the entire package back to the mayor and council and get it approved. What we would like from the DDA tonight would be, if this is acceptable to you and you agree with this, to get authority to move forward with execution, subject to what the city is agreeable to and subject to basically Ben sign off, me, Harold, as the chair, that we are all satisfied with it as well. That allows us to get the authority tonight, have the documents finalized, done next week, and we wouldn't need to come back to approve the final documents. And it says that they will not can't materially change from what's already in your packet. And I don't think that's a risk. This is all sort of fleshing out details because we had to put this together relatively quick, and it's a relatively complex issue, and we wanted y'all's feedback. So I wanted to hear everybody's feedback, and if there's something we need to incorporate, we can. So that's the park agreement. What questions can I answer?
How is security handled at the park? Is that Doraville Police? Is that private?
Handled well, there is private security out there. I don't know y'all are gonna have it. For me, it's everything about this park operates like a city park. So generally, I think there'll be enhanced security just because of its location and y'all
Correct.
have that. But it's really a city park. So as a general rule, we would have just our general oversight of it. But if you had an event that required additional security, that gets brought in during the special events process. For instance, in the FIFA, yeah, there's going to be an
Right.
entire security plan laid out based on the size of that event. But go ahead. and
That would
talk
be the
about-
intent, driven by the city, and we work closely already with Chief Atkinson over there for quite a few special events already. It might be supplemented by our studio security, especially in the parking deck where we have jurisdiction there. But no, we would work very closely with the city on public safety. That's one of the major things we wanted to whittle out in this agreement.
Operates like any other city park. But there's going to be, because of the nature of it, there's maintenance and different, but we cooperate on that. You know, our parks, the fact that we have the priority use agreement, a little bit different. But at the general, as a general rule, on a day when no event's taking place, I want to go out there and walk my dog, I go walk my dog.
I got a few questions and I'll probably pile them all up into one. Your parking deck for any events, is that going to be accessible to the general public?
It-
Maybe like for a larger event.
Levels of.
It's 48.2, or I can't remember the percent, is already dedicated to the public and is open for public access today.
Okay.
Yeah, and so, yeah,
If I think an event exceeded that.
right.
Again, that becomes. That
Right.
special event
Sure.
process, really the right thing that all this, because if we said, yeah, I mean, on the regular. It's a lot of people.
Yes.
And you know, you know, probably from the park. Yes. We'll have that. Not already.
Yep.
Yeah.
Especially.
Okay.
Would have additional parking and undeveloped land to the extent possible, and also on the new third rail deck.
Yeah.
That will have occupancy on very.
Okay. All right. I guess the next question would be like, would there be any open container ability there? 'Cause
Currently zoned for that now. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Create city, create.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
You could have like beer truck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
around.
exactly.
Bottle of wine, movie night on the park with a picnic.
And I'm assuming like food trucks and everything will have access to their, are there going to be like specific areas for them to park and, or serve?
We would treat each event as its own entity for the best plan and work closely with the city on that. You know, what we intended through the construction of our band shell that's ongoing now, we actually provisioned additional electrical connections up and down East Commons, and then I'm blanking on the other name, maybe Phoenix Drive, to have more locations for food trucks to use house power and things like that.
Hey,
Is the park available for special events to the general public, or is it specifically reserved for City Dorville and Assembly only?
No, it would be open to, are you speaking specifically to commercial events or corporate events?
If my son wanted to have his birthday at the park,
Yep.
could I hold his birthday there?
Right.
To the extent you could go to Honeysuckle Park.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they wanna get kids out there and have fun. It's already.
Okay.
There are rules around it. But there are already rules, what we would do is. Might pass an additional. On this property, right now.
The other parks have fee schedules.
Yes.
The other parks have fee schedules and things like that if you wanted to rent a pavilion or that sort of thing. So, yeah, I mean, if you wanted to.
Absolutely.
Is there a capacity estimate of how many people you could up there? Say, for example, if you had an event that had seating, like somebody arranged seating and you built up a stage for said event.
Right.
Is there any type of estimate of how many people it could be?
Heard within that area confined in what you would consider kind of that green space in the park, anywhere up to 4,500 people.
Okay, yeah,
So
Well,
pretty
it's
sizable.
quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just make a couple of comments that this has been something we've been ironing on for almost 2 years, trying to get this figured out. And the city has done some events over there, not as many as we would have liked because the process was not clear. And neither the city nor our assembly really knew, how this was going to work and that sort of thing. And so this will streamline the city's use. You'll see a lot more events over there. And the key thing to me is we're getting a city park and you guys are maintaining it.
Yeah, well,
Because like the city spends a lot of money cutting the grass and landscaping and all that at all our city parks. And to be able to have a use of a park with its easement and not have to pay for the maintenance is huge.
Will this be the largest park in terms of like usable ground space uh, once it's open in the city?
Honeysuckle's probably bigger.
Circles.
But if you subtract like the ball fields and stuff like that, or like in terms of just
Yeah, yeah. As far as just usable space, absolutely. And
Yeah.
as far as having a single gathering spot,
Mhm.
it definitely is.
Mm.
And once they get the band shell done and have the big screen, have screens up there and all that stuff, it's going to be, the city doesn't have any ability to do. We've got like that blow up movie screen that's pretty weak. that
Mhm.
it's worked, but it was probably bought 20 years ago. So
And
Uh,
side of it with our screen.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so it's going to be a big enhancement to the city events.
Really one lot of communication. I believe that they're building, the band shell they're building now. That's marked out.
Yeah, that's like a no trespassing kind of, we don't want people climbing around on that and
Um, although effectively this is treated as if it were a city park and like other existing city parks. And I don't know what exactly is I guess at some point the city could say, well, we've got this park here, but maybe it's not being used or utilized and it could be sold like over longer term. How does that work out once it's dedicated as a park? And let's say for over the years, we're talking projecting forward that Assembly's needs or involvements or they sell it or something, could then the buyer say, hey, we love your park and that's great, but we have a better idea for it. How does that work?
That is, not as long as my easement.
Okay.
That's the benefit of us having it. It's not a lease. Easement it as a property interest.
Mhm.
So the answer to that is perpetual easement, so it's got to be there. I can tell you as a secondary level, when you have property that's been dedicated to parks, as a city, it's very hard. Because that was the sort of the terms on which it was granted into the public use. As a city attorney, we said, this park is no longer in the right location. It's no longer viable. It is a complex it is a complex legal issue to sort of make it unpark, and you still have an obligation probably to provide. So the answer to that is, under this situation with an easement long-term, very much. If somebody arbitrarily decide, yeah, we're done with you.
Okay.
I mean, the park is part of the public good that the abatement exists because of.
Mhm.
That if there was no public good, the TAD agreement wouldn't have ever happened. That's why, like the rail trail and all that other stuff was part of, this is the public good that's being provided for this abatement. And that's all in that TAD document. So they couldn't come back. If they got rid of this park, they'd have to build another one.
Yeah.
They'd have to provide the same space. Right.
Okay. Any other questions? Questions or comments?
Good.
Benjamin, I had a question for you. As DDA counsel, do you have any issues with what's being asked for us to approve this evening? Okay. All right. So, do I have a motion to approve the requested, easement right-of-way issues, for the sidewalk in the park?
What we,
Or,
what we do is help a little bit with the.
Yes,
motion,
uh-huh.
just because I don't, y'all feel free to stop me, but I don't want it to put us in a situation where we got to come back.
okay,
Like a special call meeting. So Ben, if you want to make sure we're all good, I'm thinking it would be a motion to approve the execution of this document in materially the same forms. It doesn't mean any changes, but no material changes. So motion to execute the document in substantially similar form, subject to the city's approval and the approval of both attorneys as well as the chair.
Okay.
If that works, then the next three, I would like to do that. And what that'll do is give us authority that if there's some minor modifications of these agreements going through to the council, we can contemplate those and we won't have to reconvene after the city council meeting next week. Unless there are material changes.
okay. So a motion, a motion to approve as described by Cecil.
Actually, so motion to approve substantially.
Motion to approve substantially
Yeah.
supported format,
to
subject to
council
city council,
Okay.
with attorney.
Benjamin, both attorneys and
I'll make a motion.
EDA chair.
I'll make a motion to approve with no material changes with the approval of the city council, the city attorneys, and the DDA chair.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, approved. Thank you, Stephanie. And, okay, so,
So that's the park. That's exciting. That's going to be really, really neat. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's going to be super,
this is-
super fun.
Yeah, the rest of this is
Okay, so we talked a little bit about it. The next request, and this is a lot of what got us started, is Assembly's come in and said, we are done with the streets. The streets are in good shape. We finished them. And we would like to be able to dedicate them to the city at this point, which they become the city's responsibility. Okay? The former city manager was in on this and was very adamant that we accept only curb to curb. So that becomes the city maintenance responsibility is only curb to curb of the roads. And as we discussed earlier, for the purposes of the sidewalks, that is going to be an easement to us, just like the park, for the public access of the sidewalks. And they will be part of the next kind of maintenance agreement. The reason for that is we anticipate higher level of finish than we would have on a typical city sidewalk or the city typically gonna be more of a landscape type thing. So, the staff has reviewed it and we've gotten the assurances of the contractors who built that. That is subject to our community development department's analysis to make sure that we have the appropriate certifications that the roads were built properly. In addition, they've been in place for a while. Usually if there's a big problem, we'll see it. So, the document that would be executed is basically right-of-way deed where the describing the road beds curb to curb. That would be from Assembly to the city, and the DDA would sign off on that as well because it's just the DDA. You have the document of the roads coming to the city, and then you would have the easement document conveying the sidewalk easement area to the city as well. DDA would sign. Those are the next documents on the agenda. Questions on that?
Yeah, I have a few. just to clarify, like if there's a sidewalk easement, they're not build, they can't build anything on that sidewalk easement, correct?
No, anytime I have an easement for a sidewalk, if somebody came in and was like, doing something that obstructs your sidewalk, can't do it. Easement, it is, way they would say it in law school is that property is burdened by that sidewalk. Could I put in
Like you could,
Carriolas along the side? Absolutely. Could I put in something that hindered the public from passing on the sidewalk? Absolutely not.
okay, so just clarifying that.
We can self-help. That's fundamental law.
Right, right.
On easement.
Okay. Have all these roads been top coated?
Yes, ones that we have that overhead.
Okay, so they're done. Okay, so the only concern I have, and I think Chris Henshaw brought this up at the meeting about if the city is responsible for the maintenance when the rest of this site is being built out, there's going to be monster trucks driving down these roads and they're going to get torn up.
Yes.
So how can we?
Say no, and hypothetically, yes, we have shared and we will share with appropriate parties a ingress egress plan that Jay Gibson put together as part of the development plan so that these trucks coming in would not touch roads that are being dedicated.
Okay. So Cecil, how do we address that protects the city from somebody changing their mind and trucks driving on these roads? You just,
The way we sort of have inherent powers to deal with that already. For instance, if someone came in and said, we're going to build anything, an apartment building, we're building an apartment
Yep,
building that's
right.
going to be off these roads and we're ready to do construction. I mean, even if it were not this scenario, if it were another scenario, they can't damage our roads, right?
okay,
So part of that construction plan generally is always going to consider,
road repairs
how do you
after
act
the fact.
and if somebody damages the roads and if a party comes in to build something, damages the roads and then comes to me and says, will you issue my CO? The answer is, yeah, as soon as you fix my roads.
Right. No, because I mean, I've seen these like 18, we've all seen like these 18-wheel cranes and stuff come in that are bound to like tear up. I just don't want us to have the city be on the hook. And that's the reason I'm asking the question, but okay, okay. Those are the only concerns I had. Thanks.
How about it's restrooms? Can we talk about that? Maintenance,
So in terms for the
park area where they're,
park, yeah. We have long-term
Or-
plans as we develop out the rest of phase two there's no dedicated restroom facility there as it exists today.
okay,
What we've contemplated for some of the development in the surrounding area to have publicly accessible restrooms to help support these events that we have coming through. We just haven't built it.
okay, I got it. Okay, it's later down the road.
So what we bring in, the porta johns. and
Yeah, porta johns,
higher
yeah.
end, nicer ones, for our events. as it
Okay.
stands now.
Okay,
Probably will be fleshed out over the next few days of how that works on just a
Yeah.
day-to-day basis.
Mm.
One that- Through that, so that would be one of those sort of material,
okay,
we're gonna end up with that paragraph.
all right, okay.
The city council would have to agree to. That. Everybody would have to.
Thanks.
So if everybody's good with this document, we would make a similar motion that said, oh, Chuck, come on up.
Good evening. I just have one concern, on one of the roads that is up on the screen that's being conveyed to the city tonight. It's the road right off of the, circle, that goes up in front of Serta. That road is not in very good shape. And I went out earlier and I took some pictures and I can show you. It's appropriate. Yeah. Yeah, and out of all the.
Is that the roundabout up there?
Mm.
Stops down by the bridge.
Yeah, we had a temporary, to speak to the drainage issues, that's part of the redevelopment of that, what we're calling a retail plaza outside of that new Third Rail Studios deck. And we had a temporary road put in for construction during the parking deck, which is why you kind of see that in one of the previous pictures, that gravel road that had been coming across. But my understanding is, and of course, we'll confirm documentation from our general contractor that yes, that would all have a curb on it. Sure. That would have been, yeah, and I should clarify when I said that the roads have been top coated. To be specific, I was discussing the newly constructed roads as part of the assembly development. A lot of this was what we inherited from the previous ownership group, but to the extent necessary to repair or replace what is needed, to the extent and satisfaction of DDA, we, of course,
I just saw that the other roads are, they're
Right.
top coated and
Yeah.
everything is fine, on the other.
Right.
And these are the only roads that were left over from the old, when Integral did the thing. And as I recall, some of these roads they did were actually the old floor of the GM plant. They never,
Nothing has changed right there.
right, that it's just the concrete floor of the GM plant, and they put stripes on it and called it building a road. And no, I mean, I hate to say that, but that's what they did. And if that's being deeded over as part of this deal, that would, I agree, Chuck, that needs to be like,
yes.
Right
Yep.
now, tomorrow night, we're gonna go to the council and get this exact same feedback. Hopefully bring it back. So this is an issue I think we can discuss and
Yeah.
figure out where we are. These roads are in the description.
I mean, I would be comfortable making this motion that as, again, approved by the council. I don't think the council's gonna, I know I'm not gonna vote to accept this road like in this condition. And so if we made the motion that contingent on, and obviously here we're trusting the council's not gonna let this slide either. Would that get us through?
This is exact.
And thanks, Chuck. That's a good catch.
So if we said the motion was approve the acceptance, subject to the council's acceptance and the approval of the attorneys and.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve on item F.
Just one quick thing. Ben, that sounds okay? That sounds okay. Okay, good. Motion to
I'll make a motion, we accept the conveyance of the roads right away, sidewalk with the contingent on the approval of the council and the attorneys and the chair of the DDA.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion's approved.
Okay, and then the last thing that we talked about, this agreement, we've seen several times before. And this is the maintenance agreement with the Master Association. And this has been done again for the rail trail, the stormwater infrastructure, as well as the deck. So we've seen it a few times. And what's happening on the agreement is the agreement stays the same and we keep adding exhibits to add additional infrastructure. And at this point, the additional infrastructure is the sidewalks. And what this looks like is basically we have the agreement that says the sidewalks will be maintained by the AMA. Here are all the bullet points on which they operate by. And the process there is the AMA determines at the beginning of the year what maintenance is going to be necessary, present it to the city. The city will evaluate, the city concurs. They get that to us, and then we monitor through the year and only pay out as the work is being completed. Right? So that is the process. We've sort of done that. What questions can we answer on that? This is the sidewalks.
I got a question. Is there going to be any ability for like bicycles and e-scooters and all that stuff? As this area starts getting busier and, we're wanting to hold events and all that stuff, I'm assuming that people are going to want to get there a little faster than just walking.
Right. I don't know of any rules that preclude them on
wanna
the
say-
sidewalks.
I don't
Yeah,
want to say it goes by city park rules.
right.
Also, there's some state law about riding on sidewalks. We've had to do it.
Correct.
So everything without us having to say it is subject to state law. And we're stating expressly subject. So I would say, state law that is working well, we would like. But if all of a sudden we would get typically if we go. That's. So this moment, it's operating city park rules, which are stated.
Okay. So as it sits with the state/city law, it's scooter friendly?
Sidewalks in general, it's a path and it's dedicated. Is my,
Yeah, there's a,
Typically
yeah,
bike
there's
lanes.
a path, which has to be, I forgot how many feet wide, like 7 feet wide or something. And then then there's a sidewalk, which is designed for pedestrians,
Mhm.
and there's no bicycles or scooters on them.
That's true.
Okay. And do we want to have like ability?
no, but
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because personally, I mean, I'm friendly towards it, but at the same time, I would like for there to be like a dedicated parking for like e-bikes or whatever, if that was the case. Because at the same time, I don't like seeing all the bikes and scooters just laying in the ground everywhere.
Contemplated bike racks throughout the property. We have dedicated e-bike parking and electric charging in the deck already. As it relates to the sidewalks, we don't have a lot of dedicated e-bike. Happy to look into that. It's just not something-
Just food for thought. Yeah. Yeah. Well, just food for thought, right? So something that maybe we can look into as it develops and as the usage starts.
So are we
Go up.
talking a bike lane, like bike lanes and
Bike lanes,
that?
e-scooters.
So that would,
I mean-
Question kind of related to that. What is the speed limit on those roads? Do y'all?
know if that's subject to the city once it's
it's a pol-
it's not otherwise designated.
25, so it's gonna be pretty bicycle friendly. You know, and it's not gonna be like it's not gonna be like riding your bike on Beaufort Highway or New Peace, even New Peachtree, you know?
through
great.
them, but understand, I mean, on my feet, as we're talking. But my thought is, it's not required, we've required what we required in the zoning, right? So in the zoning, and there was probably some bark. Since we have the easement for the park, the easement for sidewalks, if the city came, what we really need here, we need some bike racks. I think that easement would probably contemplate bike racks as being put in there. I mean, there's a big cooperation, all of them, right? If the city needs parking right here.
Have some surrounding the park as it exists now, and we've contemplated more through the band shell.
I'm just thinking like Beltline looking vibes and, if we're gonna
Yeah.
connect Doraville with
Yeah.
this park / if there's gonna be, some kind of like, walkway that goes through it.
Isn't what was built on Motors Industrial, that's considered a trail, right?
Exactly.
Right, and so that's bicycle access.
And then the same thing with that new Pisha Road where we've put bicycle access
Right.
and all that stuff. I'm assuming like if we want to integrate all of that, I think that'd be huge as far as like, getting this to develop to where you guys want it to develop to. And, if we're going to be looking at our,
That could be great. Yeah.
I think it's right. I also sort of think we have a lot of ability to come through and make those improvements as we move forward, see how it's all operating together, because that's the great thing about
Mhm.
Mhm.
To come in and say, at this point, little granular for where we are right now on getting these rights conveyed around, but I think operational.
Yeah, like you said, maybe it's too early. But I do want to put that little seed in there and, as everything develops in phase 2, phase 3, or however many phases there may be in the future,
Remember,
You know?
this has now become, it's part of the overarching city park plans. We constantly are looking at our parks and upgrades and how to make them better.
yeah,
So I would say that's the kind of, once we get this in place, with assembly, it might be a little different, just with the nature of the agreement, but, we're always thinking, what should we do in honeysuckle next? That'll be something good, so that's the kind of suggestion. What should we do with this?
sure.
It's like something that would certainly be.
Mhm.
Right
Yeah.
now, we're doing more like this.
That's good. Yeah.
Let's get
Mhm.
these things here. Once we start.
And they're gonna be coming back to us for, when they're doing phase 2. There's gonna have to be some zoning changes. And that's when the city can say, well, okay, part of the zoning, we have to make sure that it's accessible and all that stuff. And to get this zone, a conditional zoning permit is gonna require this bike infrastructure or something.
Mhm.
I mean, we've done that we just did that recently with the property on the edge of the city. It's like you need to connect your business to the MARTA station. This isn't their last bite of the apple.
Yeah, this is just the beginning.
We're just trying to
First evening.
we're trying to swallow this bite.
Yeah.
I guess is a good analogy.
Take bigger bites, yes.
That is the maintenance agreement. This one. bunch of basically adding years. For the sidewalks, the layout, and the structure, the expectations.
And this isn't likely to change between now and
Yes, that. Level of eight. Exhibit.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve pending the approval of the mayor and council, the city attorneys, and the chair of the DDA.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Um,
So we're back in.
okay, I think we have the, thank you, gentlemen. Do we have, next item, consideration of assignment of bond agreements from Kaufman Realty Group LLC to a related entity at closing, presented by Benjamin Brooks.
Good evening. It's good to be here. We're ready for a new topic. I'm working with the Kaufman folks who were here at the last meeting, Gary Sobel, on getting this bond transaction closed. They have a deadline of December 15th currently to get that transaction closed, and we're working on that. And as with all transactions, there are last minute items and things that come up, and I wanted to come and address a couple of those with you this evening. So Kaufman has, as many real estate companies work, those of you involved in that area will know, very common to create new entities to manage each individual property that the investor is investing in. And so Kaufman has created a new real estate entity that they propose to operate this particular project. So currently our agreements are all in favor of the Kaufman Realty Group LLC is the counterparty to all of the documents. They've created a new entity which is called 5407 Buford Highway Owner LLC that they would like to operate this property. And so what they're proposing is that because all of the documents were approved by the DDA and by the courts in the name of the Kaufman entity, we're going to close the deal that way. We're not going to change it prior to closing. But what we're proposing to do is once the deal is closed, the Kaufman entity is going to sublease the property to this new entity or for some period of time to operate it. Again, this property is not currently under construction as we heard last time around. They're working on getting their financing and their capital partners together. And so what that would mean is that the DDA's lease would still be with the Kaufman entity, and we can look to them. It doesn't change anything for the DDA in terms of that piece of it. They would have a sublease with a related company, this new and related company, to operate the property. As far as the DDA is concerned, our counterparty is still Kaufman. So that's one aspect of it. They also are considering at some point in time assigning the entire deal over to the new entity and having Kaufman come out of that, and again, assignments of these bond transactions are quite common because of this reason. You have a company that initially signs on for the development, and then when financing and everything is lined up, it's assigned to a new entity. So the contemplation is at some point in the future, in the next year, an assignment may take place to this new entity. Okay, so those are two things. Why don't we stop there? Any questions, discussion on that to start with?
What's being asked tonight? Just one or both?
So what I would like to do tonight is to ask the DDA to approve the sublease, because that's going to happen at closing.
Okay.
And under the documents, a sublease does require the formal approval of the DDA. So we need to do that if they're going to sublease that property. It requires our approval. In terms of the assignment, I don't think I can ask you tonight to approve
Yeah, I wouldn't be comfortable doing that because I don't even know who it is. Like,
right. So we don't have information that you all may want to know. There are some requirements that entity have financial capacity.
exactly.
We don't have that information yet tonight. So that item is more informational, and you have in your packet kind of a form of the assignment, what it would look like in the event we do end up going through with that. So,
But tonight is just the sublease and the deal's not changing at all.
No.
It's just allowing them to sublease this to, yeah. And at this point, Kaufman's still the responsible party.
Kaufman's still the responsible party. That's right.
Right. And we know their financials.
Correct. So we're not releasing Kaufman. They're just subleasing it to another party and they have their own arrangement.
Right. And we're not transferring the deal to someone else or anything at this point.
Not flipping the deal to someone else at this point.
Okay.
Uh,
That's all I had.
They do want, thank you. And if, I think they're interested, if there was some objection to an assignment, they would be interested in hearing that or any questions or concerns we might have, going forward, but understand.
No, to me, the assignment would just, my concern would be, again, to see the financials to make sure that that it's being assigned to someone that can actually follow through with the project and has a, basically like a job interview, like show us what you've done in the past and show us your money and like, let's make sure it's not being assigned to someone that could never build it.
Understood. Okay, so those are the two things related to the new entity that you have.
So Benjamin, tonight, thank you, Stephanie. And let me see if I get this straight. We're being asked to approve their sublease of the project to somebody else to manage. Okay. And at a future time, they may want to assign this. Now, okay, so I think you mentioned earlier that this is not uncommon. So could you help myself and maybe the board understand from their point of view, what is the advantage of doing this? In other words, does it increase their ROI? Does it relieve them from, certain things? It's like somebody else can do it better. Let's get our return earlier on this. Or is it liability? Why does something like this occur? Why would they want this?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I'll talk in general terms since they're not here to kind of talk about their own business and I don't have a window into that. But I think you mentioned a couple of them. Liability purposes is a common reason why for each individual project, a developer will put in place a single purpose entity that all that entity does is own that project so that if there's a problem or litigation or liabilities, they contain it to that project. So I think that's one of the very most common reasons to do it. I think the other one is that it allows for new investors to come in. You put in place a new entity, a new investor can take an interest in that entity and that project only, and not everything, not everything else that the developer is doing. So those are the two most common reasons that I see. And I think, that probably plays into what Kaufman is thinking as well.
And this is for the entirety of the project, both the sublease and the contemplated
That's correct.
assignment.
That's correct.
Okay.
So the sublease will cover the entirety of the project. So that entity will operate in the meantime, will operate that project. Again, from the DDA standpoint, if something doesn't happen there, if there's a problem, our recourse is against Kaufman. That doesn't change. And so this is more of an internal, the sublease is more of an internal issue for Kaufman at this point in time.
And this has no potential effect on the abatement as we had initially agreed with?
Has no effect on the business deal we have with Kaufman, on the abatement, on the payments. It doesn't change anything. Kaufman remains liable for the documents as the DDA has.
Mhm. Could you maybe explain to me why a firm would, the reasons that you mentioned were liability and one was to bring in additional investors. So what kind of company would want to do that? Or is it actually, it's just an entity itself? It could be actually principals of Kaufman that are involved in this?
That's my understanding, is that there is some overlap
And as per Stephanie's concern, we don't really know who these people are right now. Yeah, okay.
And to be frank, I don't either.
Okay.
So I can't answer that question directly. I do understand there's some overlap, but those are all details I think that are could be fairly asked about in terms of approving the
Right.
assignment.
And if, like you said, like you were saying, if it's changed, especially with this deal where they're, they're paying substantial amount of money in lieu, as part of this deal, we need to ensure that they were actually capable of paying that. And wouldn't try to do some file bankruptcy thing or just, I want to make sure that bother the sublease thing. That doesn't bother me at all.
Okay.
It's,
It's coming.
that's very subleasing property, is very common, but changing the deal to another entity, especially if it's they just started it last week and, they've got no history and that concerns me with the size of the payment that's supposed to be made. But again, we can talk through that at the time. It may be that then they lose the whole abatement and that would be the tool that we could use. I just want to make sure that we've got a tool in our toolbox to use when they don't make the payment, then we can do X. That's a lot more of a loss than their payment is. I don't want to get in the situation where they default on this and we've got nothing that we can do to enforce the agreement.
Exactly right. This agreement is structured in a way that we do have those rights and remedies.
We have teeth.
We have to.
If, sorry. Good. If we were to go forward with approving the sublease and then for whatever reason found that the assignment was not something that we wanted to approve, what does that leave in place with the sublease at that point? Is there, are we backing ourselves into a situation when we can't? Like,
Well, I think that it's potentially a concern of Hoffman, but I don't think it's a concern of the DDA. I think that's their concern, and that's why it's being raised tonight. Is that I think, they want to understand if they're, what they need to provide and what they need to do to get us comfortable within the terms of the documents, and we can talk about those, but they don't want to get painted into a corner where we move forward, they close the deal, they're going to be spending a significant amount of money to close the deal. They want to have some idea that this can be assigned to another entity in the future without with the DDA acting reasonably in that regard. So
No, I mean, I think we would act reasonably, but again, it may be more talking with you and understanding like what remedies we would have with this other entity to ensure that that we're protected and that they can't renege on their end of the deal and then we can't, there's nothing we can do. I mean,
exactly.
and right at this point, this meeting, I'm not asking you to explain all that, but I think there's a point where if all that was explained and this board understood that we have teeth and we have, basically, if they don't pay us the money, then the whole abatement goes away. And then they're paying millions in taxes instead of paying this 500,000.
Right.
They're going to pay the 500,000 to avoid getting millions in taxes.
I agree 100%, and I think we do need to have that conversation. And given when this issue came up, we just haven't had that time for me to fully educate the board.
So if they're listening to this, which they probably are, I don't think anybody's saying we would never approve something like that, but we would definitely need more than just a week and a handshake.
Benjamin, so we are being asked to approve the sublease and the bond closing, not an assignment.
Sign.
Okay. And, in addition to echoing Stephanie's concern, historically, there was a feeling that we'd understood that some of the let's say consequences downstream post signing agreement would exist. And I'm not pointing out any particular one, but sometimes when it comes down to it, and then we're sitting around and we're saying, well, we have a tough time getting these things done. And so my request is, and you can put this on, your notes for, let's say a subsequent assignment is requested, that if you can actually provide us, with what part of the agreement and specifically states should something happen, and we can actually play that scenario. Let's say, okay, this thing that we thought was going to happen does not happen. Now we have to enforce it. Where are our teeth? And when we look for it, and I want it to be there, and I want it to be substantial, and essentially it should act as a deterrent for us. And we just want to make sure it's there. We think it's there, but then when it comes time to be there, I would prefer not to feel stuck in a meeting and it's like, man, so that's a good time to do it before that we approve that. So just requesting that as council, we can look at the specific sections of the agreement and see if that makes sense. And if perhaps it does not seem substantial enough or problematic, that we can incorporate that as an amendment prior to our approval of any assignment.
Something that would be this big. I mean, something, you can correct me if I'm wrong here. I mean, this board does have some funds if we feel like that we want to get a second opinion, not saying we don't trust you, but sometimes something like this that could be construed in different ways. And as Cecil's told me, it's all a legal opinion, that it might not be a bad idea to pay another attorney to just take a look at something that's a big decision and get a second opinion, just to make sure that we feel comfortable that this legal opinion that you are giving us is the same as another attorney's legal opinion. And that's just something we could do as a board to make us feel comfortable if we've got a really big decision to make. And, I agree that, we should always trust the attorney, but yeah, if we want to double down and make sure that we're actually in the safe waters, that is something we have the authority to do.
Certainly within your rights to do them. I've advised on other agreements, other deals, other situations. And I've looked at this one as well, and I think it's perfectly appropriate that we get down into the weeds on it. I've looked at it and I'm much, much more comfortable with teeth and the rights that the DDA has in this, just as a general matter, and we can talk about specifics at the appropriate time. But we do have real remedies, real rights, real teeth and options in this deal if for some reason the payments or the obligations of the company and whatnot. So, but I understand. I think it's all of those things are correct and understood. So, and that's why I'm not asking tonight for formal approval of that assignment. It's more for information, and I think the discussion is going to be helpful for me and also for Kaufman listening in to understand what the process is going to be. Finally, let me add one more thing, and this is, so we have a December 15th deadline to close this deal. I think we're on track to do that. And this is more from me as your lawyer. I would like to ask for approval to close by the end of the year, just in case. Another 15 days to close the deal, just in case something slips a day. We have it's an unusual deal in that we have a hard deadline that says you must close by December 15th. And if you don't, the deal's over, or we have to renegotiate. I don't think that we're going to need that, but if it slips to a couple of days, I'd rather ask for that flexibility now than try to cobble something together over the holidays. So that's more of a request from me. So, yeah, so it's next. I think, again, I think things are coming together quite well, and I anticipate that we may very well hit that, but I'd rather not come back to this board to ask for more time if we need another couple of days. But certainly not beyond the end of the year. I think if it goes beyond that, then we gotta start.
And the allowance for the additional 2 weeks or so to the end of the year, that really doesn't have any much, if any, effect on the deadlines that we had previously discussed on demolition and permitting. Okay.
That included our last meeting. It's just extending the time to close the bond transaction by a couple of weeks.
Okay. Okay. Any questions or comments? I'd like to add something maybe for the board. It's on the top of my mind, and maybe something that we can, when we have the actual developer present, not specifically, but in general, that we would really like to have the communication frequent. And sometimes I feel, this is me. So it's like when we get close to some type of deadline and then something gets thrown in with it that wasn't known or is kind of a surprise. And to be charitable, let's say it's not deliberate, but still, even if it was, you had an idea about it, I don't see that much downside to presenting, hey, this is a possibility in the future. And then at least we could start discussing it, because it does seem kind of a surprise. And as it's written, I guess I'm sure if we approve the assignment, they take it. But it would also help them, because I think there is a sense of, now that the DDA has been around for a while, and let's say we've had some experiences in the past, that these are some we want to make better decisions in the future. And the more time and information that we have, that it's going to be better. Actually, we would be able to make the decision quicker for them if we have the information beforehand, so we can discuss and deliberate, amongst each other and ask the particular questions. So I think it'll make us feel better about both them and the project.
Duly noted. And in this case, it was new information to me. This was we put together some information for you and understand that this is a little bit last minute. So duly noted, and certainly something I can talk to Hoffman about for future. And I think that's useful. They'll know if they need an assignment, but they need to start those discussions early, provide information early, before we come to this board to ask for a final.
Okay.
How would we word the motion to approve the sublease without approving the reassignment?
So what I'd ask for is a motion to consent to the sublease by the Kaufman entity to the new entity, which is 5407 Buford Highway owner. Consent to that sublease. And then secondly, consent to or approve extending the deadline for closing the bonds until December 31st. Be my request.
So moved.
Oh, had a real quick question. Sorry.
Well, now we can,
Okay.
let's get a
So-
second and have discussion.
Oh, well, to council, if I'm between now and the end of the year, will I have a request for a signature on this?
I think that we've got all the signatures from the board that we need.
Okay.
But no promises. Are you going to be in town?
I'll be in town,
Okay.
but I just want to make sure, and this is maybe a little bit of paranoia. I want to make sure that what I'm signing, not to say that it wouldn't be, but I want to make sure that it is downstream, but sometimes these documents are relatively lengthy. I had experience in the past where I'm actually only given the signature page, so I just want to make sure that that's okay. We're good.
So I think that we've already, all the documents for this deal have been vetted and approved. And I think we have all the signatures that we need from the DDA at this point. And you'll be the first to know if we need to track you down, and we'll make sure you know and understand what you're asking.
You be able to provide me with a draft? Okay, very good. Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. So approved. Do you have any other questions, comments, anything? No, we're all good. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Second.
Second, all in approval, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. And if we don't see you, otherwise, have a great holidays.
Holidays.
Oh.